Oh, yeah.
And now there's like 14 or more.
Right.
At first, right, I was like, oh, I just got this. So Minneapolis, I'm gonna get it. And now I'm waving at people.
I mean, I assumed it was gonna be a whole bunch of. But anyway, so I got a backup system. So that it'll run. Yeah. So I gotta find some.
You're only gonna be able to fix so many circuits, you're not gonna lose them all. See, that's what Gary was on, and then he switched that, so nice. Yes. They flip the switch and it transfers it to your generator power. So you just get your, whatever break point is. Figure out how many watts that truck, amps that truck. Yeah, then you're stuck there. Then you call me and I bring my 5,500 Honda generator over, gas and I power them like a roll. Or I could get them with diesel. Oh, yeah.
He's got shit to do.
I guess. I'd like to call to order this Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for July 10th, 2024. Roll call, please.
Arel. Budke.
Here.
Clava. Kuhn.
Here.
Bunsky.
Here.
Mattson.
Here.
Reichert.
Here.
Sandy. Waspic.
Present.
We have a quorum.
All right. Reading and approval from the minutes from the June 5th meeting. Mr. Reichert.
Move approval.
Moved by Mr. Reichert, second by Mr. Budke. Any further discussion? Not seeing any hands. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Meetings are approved as presented. 3, public hearings, final approval, petition and minor changes.
3-1, replat of BFM 7-3 subdivision located at 2306 32nd Avenue South.
Ms. Grasser.
Good evening. So this replat is just off of 32nd Avenue and 25th Street South, 23rd Street South. This is the old AMC Theater. It's now owned by Odyssey Cinema. They are looking to split off this lot 1 here for the potential of selling that. Right now, it's just extra 80-plus stalls of parking that they aren't using, nor do they need it for their parking requirement. We do have additional access control here and on the corners. And then there is an easement running along here. It is 10 feet. And they do have their own access, so it's not locked in by any means. So they are just asking for the replat to potentially sell that off in the future.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. Grasser before I open the public hearing? Not seeing any yet. I'll open the public hearing. Anybody want to step up to the microphone and address item 3-1, please do so at this time. Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to the commission. Mr. Budke, I saw your hand.
Move to approve.
Moved by Mr. Budke. Who seconded? Mr. Lunsky? All right. Any further discussion? None. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. 3-1 passes unanimously. Communications and preliminary approvals.
4-1, replat of lots 6 through 12, Block B, Alexander and Ives Edition, located at 624 North Washington Street.
Ms. Johnson.
Thank you.
So for this request, we're at 624 North Washington Street at the Elway Child Care Center. The current request is to replat lots 6 through 12 into 2 different lots, lots A and B. A portion of lot 7 and then the entirety of lots 8 through 12 would comprise lot A. The other portion of lot 7 and the entirety of lot 6 would comprise lot B. The purpose of the replat is to enable an expansion of the existing daycare. In addition to the lot combination, the replat also includes a dedication of a 12-foot public alleyway on the south side, and it also features access control along North Washington Street, the alley, and 7th Avenue North. So with that, staff's recommending approval. I'll stand for questions.
I'll start with one question. Are they gonna, you say limiting access, are they gonna have any access onto Washington there, or are they gonna have to come through the alley?
They would not have any access up Washington. No.
Perfect. That's what I wanted to hear.
Yep.
And to clarify, they currently do come through the alley to access the sites.
Yeah, I just, limited access, I just didn't know if they were cutting something in, and I'd rather with a daycare not have them pull onto Washington. Any other questions? I guess no public hearing, preliminary approval, stand for a motion. Mr. Reichert.
Move approval.
Moved by Mr. Reichert,
Second.
second by Mr. Kuhn. Any further discussion? Not seeing any hands. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. 4-1 passes unanimously. Thank you.
4-2 MPO Safe Streets for All project presentation.
Ms. Halford, or can it be Stephanie now?
Either way, I'll answer to you. You
All
haven't-
right, welcome.
Hey, you even. This is on this time, right? It was on Monday. We just have a quick update. I'm very excited to share this with you as Safe Streets for All Action Plan. This was a grant we applied for in partnership with both cities as well as the MPO. Fortunately, we're able to get the $400,000 grant award and able to do this action plan. So I have Cody with Bolton Mink that will do an overview of where we're at.
Thank you.
Thanks, Stephanie, and thanks, Commission, for having us here today. So, again, as Stephanie mentioned, just wanted to kind of run through and give kind of a brief synopsis on where we're at. We're still fairly early in the planning stages, but wanted to come and give a synopsis of kind of what the plan is, what we're doing, and where we're going from here. So I'm going to start with just kind of going over just in general what the Safe Streets for All funding program is, go through our schedule of the project, give an update on public engagement, and then kind of hit on a couple of the planning processes that we are going through currently. So the Safe Streets for All, as Stephanie mentioned, is a federal funding to support planning, infrastructure, behavioral, and operational initiatives with the overarching goal of preventing death and serious injury on our roads and streets. We're looking at all roadway users, so drivers, bicyclists, pedestrians, freight, transit, all users of the public right-of-way system. And so the planning grant that was given to the MPO is looking to identify the most significant roadway segments where those safety concerns are within the community. So the Safe Streets for All is really based on the safe systems approach, which is shown here in kind of these 5 key elements supported by the 6 principles around the circle. Really overarching goal of being that vision zero. So we're looking at, safe road users, safe vehicles, safe speeds, safe roads, as well as post-crash care. Really looking like that vision zero, death and serious injuries on our roads are unacceptable. Responsibility is shared. It's not one user versus the other. It's a shared responsibility. Knowing that humans make mistakes as well as humans are vulnerable, and really looking for safety to be a proactive action and not just reactive. So while we are looking at existing crash history, we're also looking to take that information and make sure we're setting up projects that can be implemented to be proactive in preventing those types of crashes in the future. So a couple of slides here on just what this is can look like. These next couple examples are from Knoxville, Tennessee. So just to give an example, this is their high injury network, which I'll get into a little bit more detail later on, but really highlighting a small portion of the roadway system that translates to a large portion of those fatal and serious crashes. So really we're able to dial in on where those specific roadway segments or intersections are, kind of getting the most bang for your buck on making those safety improvements. Another piece of that is looking at crash profiles, again, trying to be proactive versus reactive. So what are the characteristics of those crashes? What are the characteristics of the roadway system around those crashes? Where else might those exist within the community that maybe doesn't see those high crash rates, but could in the future, and again, can implement things to be proactive on safety. And then another piece of that is just setting up priority actions. So as we get this high injury network established and start to dial in on where those specific areas are, we'll be working with our steering committee and others to develop our prioritization needs, project vision and goals, and that will set into these priority actions. The graphic on the right is kind of the process that we're going through roughly by task. We're currently in the kind of community engagement, existing conditions evaluation, task 2 and 3, getting into task 4 of identifying those goals, objectives, and policies. Getting into this fall, the implementation, project identification pieces with our final plan wrapping up summer of next year. On the left is a number of components of the safety action plan that are more or less check marks of the federal requirements to make this match the grant funding that was received, which also then checks the box to open up opportunities to go after federal funds for implementation as well. So as I mentioned, our project schedule, this 12 to 15 or 15 to 18 month schedule we kicked off in March. So as I mentioned, we're kind of in the mid to tail end of the existing conditions evaluation, getting into that goals and objectives task. You'll see running along the bottom of the screen. We have our public involvement spread throughout the project. We had some meetings and pop-up events last month in June. We have some more this month, and we'll continue to do those throughout the life of the project. We also have these local government presentations in our scope. So this is the first one of those, and we'll be coming back, 5 or so more times throughout the life of the project, so we can continually update you guys and the other various agencies, city councils, and the MPO TAC and Policy Board throughout the project. So on the public engagement, we do have a project website. The link is up on the MPO's website, as well as we're getting it up on both cities' websites. On there is more introduction to the project, our schedule, as well as a online comment mapping tool where individuals can go on and comment, intersections or corridors where they feel unsafe or that are safe, any ideas or other concerns that they may have are able to go on there. It's all anonymous. People can get on and like each other's comments or dislike or respond to. So just another way to really be able to get people to get involved with the project on their time in their own space. While we also have some of the more traditional engagement events, we had a pop-up on June 8th at Art Fest. So we had a booth there with both consultant and MPO staff. We were able to get a number of foot traffic through there, had some good conversations, as well as pushing people to that website and an online mapping tool. And then as well on June 11th, we had our first open house at the Empire Arts Center, where again, we had a good 15 to 20 people come throughout the evening to have discussions with MPO consultants and city staff, as well as provide comment on some boards there. So then kind of getting into some of the technical details and giving an update there. Just have a few slides just kind of highlighting what this high injury network is. So this is kind of the backbone of the project. As I mentioned earlier, it kind of identifies those smaller portion of the roadway system where we're seeing that high proportion of the crashes. So looking at both intersections and segments, we've developed a severity index point system. So that's based on our critical crash rates as well as average crash rates for, so those KSI, those are the fatal and serious injury crashes. Our vulnerable road users, or VRUs, are those bicyclists, pedestrians, people outside of vehicles, as well as looking at the other collisions, whether that's a property damage or a minor injury. And so bringing those all in, as well as looking at an equity analysis as well. So just a highlight on that critical crash rate for those that may be unfamiliar with that, is really an analysis that determines an average crash rate per million miles vehicle travel. So kind of determines the extent to which each segment is above or below that average. So it identifies kind of those critical corridor segments. And accounts for, a number of roadway characteristics, including, facility design. Is it a 2-lane, 4-lane, 5-lane, one-way, two-way? What type of intersection controls are there? The amount of exposure or amount of vehicles traveling along the roadway, as well as taking into consideration the random nature of some crashes. So combining that, critical crash rate, you can see a table on the right side is that point allocation, where we're kind of giving higher points to those high severity, severe injury and fatal crashes, as well as vulnerable road users. And so that kind of gets to that where we can start to develop where those high crash areas of town are. Also looking through the intersections, I talked a little bit about it before on, seeing a high percentage of crashes on a low percentage of the roadway. We did recently, just yesterday, first shared our draft high injury network with our steering committee. So we are seeing around 55% of those fatal and serious crashes happening on about 11% of the region's roadway network. So again, that really dials us into where we need to be focusing, and then the next step is developing that prioritization so we can start identifying which projects and where they land on timeline. Geography also plays a role in all of that data piece. Again, looking at 4-lane, 2-lane, 8 and daily traffic volumes. And then the other piece that has been happening too is a peer review. So part of our scope was looking for a few other MPOs or cities that have completed a safety action plan. This is a fairly new process, so those options are a little bit limited, but we wanted to make sure that we are finding good peer communities that were relevant to the Grand Forks, East Grand Forks region, as well as the focus on implementation, which we knew was important for this. So we looked at things like climate, population distribution, the quality of the analysis that was done for those various action plans, as well, and then looking at the countermeasure selection, communication, and those implementation outcomes. So that led us to the Greater Madison MPO in Wisconsin, the Knoxville Regional TPO in Tennessee, the Southeast Michigan Council of Governments in Michigan, as well as the City of Ann Arbor, Michigan. So you can see most of them fall kind of within that northern Midwest area, but Knoxville also had some good data analysis and some good implementation processes, so that's why that one came in there as well. So next steps, as I mentioned, the virtual engagement is open, it's up online. We have our pop-up, another pop-up in Grand Forks at the University Park neighborhood event on Saturday at Skidmore Park. So we'll have a booth out there with consultant and MPO staff. We'll be continuing to refine that high injury network, as well as continuing our peer review. Both of those will be coming out with some technical memo summaries in the next month or so. And then going from there, we'll get into that more prioritization project identification this fall. So with that, that is it. I'll stay for any questions.
All right. Any questions from the commission? Mr. Budke, I was just going to call on you anyway.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
I was.
Yeah, I just jotted down a couple things. One was a specific question. It was a few slides back on the high injury network. It says no exposure variable for bicyclists and pedestrians integrated into the results. So I don't know if this is like a technical question, but what does that mean?
Yeah, so we took the frequency of those bike and ped crashes, but they weren't, we didn't use if there were a lot of pedestrians, because a lot of pedestrians use it, like
Okay.
traffic volumes, that data is pretty standard. But
Okay.
the volumes of bicyclists and pedestrians are less so. So that's why that is the exposure there was not included in that.
I see, okay. And then also on the same slide, like the point allocation, right? I see like the vulnerable road user is toward the bottom at 5 points. I
Yep.
suggest, but I'm not sure this is the case, that's being counted less in the analysis.
Yeah, so the vulnerable road users are on there twice.
Okay,
So if you're above the average frequency, then that's 15 points. And then there's also points allocated for the crash rate as well. So
Okay.
there's two ways that vulnerable road user crashes could garner points within the system.
okay. So it's not that they're being counted as less, it's just maybe a little more fidelity on like how it's
And how
counted?
it- Yep.
Okay. All right, awesome. And then the last thing I had on here was, like the graphs especially, like it all, I'm curious if it's all data that goes into like establishing this high injury network, or if you have like other ways of gathering data, like qualitatively, or it sound like there's a steering committee. I guess I'm thinking back, like Stephanie's had a presentation before where we talked about like literally biking around town, right? Like some sort of like firsthand experience, get people out of their automobiles and experience the network in a different way.
Yep.
Is there any room for that here?
Yeah, so the high injury network is largely based on that data, and that is a requirement of the federal resource.
Sure.
As we get into the identification of those priority areas, obviously, we're asking folks to tell us where they feel uncomfortable, and that may be in a spot that is, on the edge of or off the high injury network. That doesn't mean it's not a valid piece of information, and doesn't mean that can't be part of the process.
Okay.
And we will be having a walk audit sometime, I think, in September, where we do plan to get community members and others out walking in areas of Grand Forks and East Grand Forks to go through some of those conditions.
Sign me up.
I was going to say, I have a volunteer.
Yeah, I got it. I'm writing it down.
Mr. Mattson, did you have something?
Yeah, just a couple quick questions. So, MPO, is it just cities of East Grand Forks and Grand Forks, or like airport has come up as
Yep.
a concern recently? So is this taking us out to airport, Air Force Base? Where are we heading?
Yes, it does include the airport as part of, it's in the MPO's, what is that?
Planning area.
Planning area.
Okay.
It may not be in the urbanized area, but it's in the planning area. So it is included, it is on the high injury network.
Okay. And so you're providing federal funding support for planning, infrastructure, all this. So if recommendations come back to add a stop sign in my neighborhood, are we going to try and get federal money to put these stop signs in? Or are we going to put this on me as a special assessment, or is it just identifying things? Where are we going with this?
So this is just a planning document. All this will go back to the cities to go after grant funding and implementation, and that will be on the cities to apply for any of that. So this is just listing recommendations, as well as it'll go back to the city before it's a final document too, for them to okay these recommendations as well. So
So we hope we get money.
You're hoping it,
Hoping we get federal money for some
I
of these
mean, you would want
projects.
to. I mean, it'll help pay the cost, and so you don't have to do those special assessments and things like that. But going after that grant funding, you probably won't get it for stop signs. They're probably looking for like a little bit, yeah, it's probably
Bigger
low on the
projects,
totem
right?
pole. Yeah.
Just as an example. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mattson. Anyone else have any questions? We're not looking for an approval or anything, we're just out here. Just, well, thank you both for coming.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
We'll be back.
I'll appreciate that too. All right, reports from the planning department. Ms. Johnson is coming up to the deck.
Yes, so for this monthly update, site plans, we had All True Generator Building, Haven Court Wet Utility Plan, and Goodwill Parking Lot approved, as well as Elway Child Care Center addition, New Starbucks, and Red River Potatoes addition under review. Meetings, was a Board of Adjustments meeting on June 6th, and there's the MPO Exec Board monthly standing meeting. Public comment opportunities, obviously you just heard about the Safe Streets for All interactive comment map, as well as the survey input opportunity for the North Dakota Housing Initiative. I said this last month, but want to just remind everyone again that we are hosting the North Dakota Planning Association Annual Conference, September 18th at the Alaris Center. So if anyone's interested in attending that, just let us know and we'll register you. That's all I got.
Thank you very much. Any other business? Please.
Mr. Brooks, the North Dakota State Supreme Court recently ruled against the contract the city had for buying out rural water plans. Are we going to see anything coming before us for that, like the recent buyout of Agassiz north of town? Are we going to, any effect on that?
That is not something that comes through the planning commission, but we'll have conversations with the city attorney about the results of that. We're still working through that, but obviously there's still pieces being worked on. I think that was one element to that, and that'll be a factor that we're going to have to weigh in terms of those conversations.
All right. If that's it, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved by Mr. Mattson, second by Mr. Kuhn. All those in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody.